Alright guys, what's up? It's been a while. I wanted to talk about this documentary everybody's talking about on Netflix. I just want to give my intake on it. I'm not completely against vegan, for the record. Personally, before watching it, my thing was, first off, you can't go, I don't think it's smart to go completely one way or the other. And I still think that way after watching this. You don't, the documentary is called Game Changer or whatever. It's just about these athletes that follow vegan diets. And of course it's going to be skewed towards following a vegan or plant-based diet. And I'm not saying that it's not factual, but it does leave some stuff out. Protein takes more calories to burn than what it's worth. If you overdo the protein, you can burn your metabolism out. You can get backed up. Things start slowing down because if all you're eating is protein, you're not eating anything to fuel your body, and your body has to turn that protein into stuff to fuel your body. Over a while, you kind of eat yourself into this deficit. So that's why one of the reasons I'm really big on balanced diets, even fats, even for fat loss. I'm big on protein, carbs, and fats. It all needs to be in balance. That's why when I do the diets with people, I work in certain ratios. I don't like doing super high protein or very low carb or no fats, because I've seen better results putting all three of them in there at some point. Maybe not all the time, but as people get on a diet, stay on a diet, it evolves to where they're having all three and they're still getting results. But I'm not going to go into specifics on what each macro does and why I do that, because that's a whole other video. So, most plant proteins do not have the complete amino acid profile. I'm pretty sure there's certain amino acids that aren't in there, so it's not a complete protein. And if your body doesn't recognize a complete protein, it really can't use it for what protein is supposed to be used for to the full extent. That's why when people eat just egg whites, I say put a yolk in there, complete that protein chain. Some people think you can use proteins from other foods and put it all together, because you do have like a 5 to 10 gram amino acid pool in your body. But that's going to run out eventually, especially if you eat like a bodybuilder. And even if it can use protein from that or aminos from that, I like to think of the body running as most efficient as possible. Just like, yeah, if you eat protein, your body will turn it into glucose if it needs glucose, but is that very efficient when you could just eat carbohydrates? If you make the body work more efficient and manipulate how it works, you can look however you want and get whatever results you want. A lot of the good results these people were getting, like more endurance, they weren't as tired. Yeah, like I said before, when you eat a lot of meat-based meat protein and you don't eat enough of the carbohydrates and stuff to get energy, you're going to burn your body out. You're going to feel like shit. You're going to be run down. So if you're not eating any fats or any carbs to offset that, you're gonna feel like that. Now, if you eat a lot of protein and you eat a lot of carbs trying to offset that, you're gonna end up getting too much of something. You're gonna end up putting on water and eventually start putting on fat. You'll be less likely to put on fat on a higher protein diet, because for some, the fact that it burns so many calories off, people that eat a high calorie diet and eat a lot of protein may not lose body fat, but they won't gain body fat either. And that's done from scientific studies. And for scientific studies with actual like bodybuilder people. These guys were having joint problems, body aches, and like I would get that from eating a lot of protein, not eating enough of something else. Just recently I had an issue where I was getting body aches, like my body was burning. I was eating a lot of protein trying to burn off fat, and because it does work for a short amount of time, but after a while your body gets burned out, so you have to lower the protein and put something else back in there to keep the calories straight. So these guys were switching to plant-based, and most plant-based proteins, even the ones that are complete, are going to also accompany a high amount of carbs or fats, or both. So if they're eating lower protein and more carbohydrates because they're following a plant-based diet, yeah, they're going to have more endurance. They're not going to be as burned out. They're going to be able to do stuff better because their body's not using all that energy burning off a lot of protein. In fact, it's getting a lot of stuff for energy. And it's getting a little bit of complete proteins from some of the complete proteins that a plant-based diet offers, from the very small amount. You have to be smart when doing that type of diet, because you have to make sure you are getting complete proteins in there, and that you're choosing foods to where the protein to carb ratio or fat ratio is not so offset that you end up getting fat. Also, even the athletes, when they were switching to plant-based, like, oh, I feel so much better, oh, I feel great, my blood works better. when it came to them and even came to the firefighters they talked about, that's great. But you also heard that these football players were eating like Popeye's chicken and shit beforehand. Oh, but it's the protein. You're eating meat protein. That's why you felt so bad. It wasn't the fact you're eating deep fried fucking chicken. Get out of here with that shit. When they had the firefighters that were following it, and they did their challenge, and they all started getting these positive results. You could look at these guys and tell that they weren't following a healthy diet to start with. Yeah, I eat meat protein, but I'm not going to mention I'm eating pounds of bacon and butter and fucking pizza and just cake and shit. Hey, you go from a diet like that to anything clean, you're going to experience good results. In fact, the good results these guys are getting with their cholesterol and blood work and stuff, I have gotten from clients following a diet full of animal protein. So if I can get the same results with my guys that these people get with the plant-based diet, it's not switching away from the meat protein. Now, if you're eating a shittier form of meat protein like deep fried chicken and fucking pork, yeah, you're going to get worse results than a plant-based diet. But if you're eating in proper ratios of your macronutrients and you're choosing clean, pure forms of those animal proteins, you can get the same health benefits as you can from following a plant-based diet. Now, does that mean you should follow an animal protein diet over a plant-based? If you're looking just to be healthier, I don't give a fuck which one you follow. If your blood work's better and your cholesterol's better and your blood pressure's better, then you achieved your goal. Who cares how you got it? I don't care. Am I saying that stuff in this documentary is false? No, it's not false, but it doesn't, well, majority of it I can say right off the top of my head is not false, but that doesn't mean you can't get the same stuff eating animal proteins. You can. I've done it many, many times. My health is perfectly fine. So it's not going from animal protein to plant-based. It's going from eating like shit to eating a proper clean diet, balanced out. For MMA fighters, endurance athletes, runners, a plant-based diet could favor them better just because they're eating less protein, so they have a less chance of their body burning out, processing all that protein. They're eating more carbohydrates that they're using because they're endurance athletes. And they're getting some healthy fats in there, which will help muscle repair, whatnot. If I had a person that was strictly an endurance athlete, I would probably feed them a lower protein, higher carb diet. And it would be, the macros would probably come out to almost the same as it would if it was plant-based or not. So, right there is not a fact of if it's animal protein or plant-based protein. It's a fact of are the ratios correct and is the diet constructed for what they're trying to do. And when they did the study with, when they looked at their blood right after they ate fatty foods, I mean, where the fuck do you expect the fats to go? I mean, there's a certain type of fats. I mean, your blood is what carries all the nutrient stuff. I mean, give it a few hours to take it somewhere where it's supposed to go and then measure the blood. I mean, yeah, so if you test it a couple hours after they eat it, it's going to be in their bloodstream. And when you give them the vegan stuff that has different types of fats that are made up differently, that can break down differently, that don't look as cloudy, because saturated fats a little bit, I want to say they process a little bit slower than your like monounsaturated and your polyunsaturated. So I don't think you necessarily see those in the blood as cloudy. But if you give these guys saturated fat, give it a little bit to clear from the blood. And don't make them think that that's how their blood is 24/7, because that's bullshit. Or else it would have been like, you wouldn't have been able to change it with one plant-based meal. And you do need a little bit of saturated fat for hormone production and stuff too. A little bit, not much. Yeah, I don't like high saturated fat diets. When I use animal proteins, I like the leaner stuff, and I'll put a little bit of saturated fat like in the morning or at night when your body's going to be more likely to have higher hormone rates and shit. And I've trained vegans too, and I've had them do their vegan diets, and I've gotten the same results as I've gotten with people that don't do vegan diets. But the thing is, you can, I would almost say you can almost, with the technology we have in re-engineering food and stuff these days, you could almost do the same shit. Except, I think if you're trying to get really lean, fat loss is better if you're on an animal-based, animal-based protein type diet. I'll call it a conventional diet. I have had people lose significant amounts of body fat on a plant-based diet. But if you're trying to do like bodybuilding contest shape and do natural, I think it'd be very difficult. Even guys that are on shit, I've seen compete, and they're usually the most out of shape one. They've got muscles, they're lean and stuff, but compared to those other guys that are on the same shit they're on, that are eating animal-based proteins, they're fucking shredded, and that one guy isn't. And that's just because of how the protein to carb and fat ratios are in plant-based foods. It just doesn't match out right enough. It's very hard to write that type of diet off of protein sources that have high carb or high fat ratios, when sometimes you have to, there are periods where you have to cut that shit really low temporarily, and it's hard to do that on a vegan diet. You would have to be able to say, well, some of the people that will eat fish a little bit, or they'll have some whey isolate because it's just extracted from the dairy, it's not necessarily the dairy, and they can substitute with that, they might be able to get a little bit closer. So that one bodybuilder in that documentary that's lean, I would like to see, first of all, his supplement regimen. He's natural, but we know natural means a tons of other shit. When I say natural, I usually mean, I specify this when I tell people, when I say natural, I mean shit that's not illegal that you're taking. If you can buy it from a store and take it, that's cool. That's what I say. That's what I mean when I say natural. Even though technically that's not natural, just from how the jargon has been in my era, that's usually what we used to mean when we say natural was shit. If you could buy it from GNC and take it, you're still natural. You know, peptides, stuff. I like to know, and I also like to know exactly what he's eating to see if there's any EAAs in there that makes up for the non-complete proteins, or counts to the protein count in his food so he can get away with it, or whey isolate or anything. I like to see his entire eating and supplement and training regimen, because I almost guarantee I could point something out and I could be like, that's why. And it would almost counteract the fact that he's a plant-based eater. Or not counteract, but it would make more sense to have that in there when he's on a plant. If he was on a strictly plant-based diet and he wasn't taking anything at all, unless he had superior fucking genetics, I don't think he would be that lean. There are some people that are just, their genetics are out of control, and they could eat sand and fucking dirt and they would be shredded and huge. And there's people out there like that, and he might just be one of those. So, but I think for the average person trying to get in bodybuilding shape, it's not going to work. Even with the right amount of drugs, unless there's some out there you could take and probably get away with it, but I would not recommend them because you could fucking die. DNP would probably be the only one I think you get away with, but I don't know. I'd like to see somebody be able to do a straight up plant-based diet and be natural and get fucking shredded like that. That'd be badass, because it would answer a lot of questions for us. But I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Anyway, so anything you do with an animal-based protein diet, you could almost do with a plant-based diet to a certain extent. But that's not my problem with the video. My problem with the video is they're making it seem like you can only get these results on a plant-based diet, and that's not true. Too much animal-based protein can cause some negative effects over time. For especially, I notice that I'm sensitive to high protein diets over time, but you know, I think as long as you offset it with other macronutrients, you keep things in ratio, everything's okay. I mean, I know people that are vegan eat plant-based stuff and they eat bunches of fruits and shit, and you could get diabetes. I've seen people that are fucking huge. I mean, I've seen people ridiculously overweight that follow vegan diets. So I don't like painting the picture because you're a vegan diet, you're going to be this fucking shredded superstar, because that's not going to fucking happen unless you do all the other pieces of the puzzle in there. So, but I've seen people that are fat as fuck that eat animal protein too. So what does that tell you? It may not necessarily be where your protein's coming from. It may necessarily be all the other shit I just talked about. You know, being in shape and getting results is a combination of certain things fitting together properly. It's not just one fucking thing. Oh, well, it's plant-based protein, that's why I can't lose weight. Bullshit. You're barely doing 5 or 6 other things that are fucking you up too. Or else I wouldn't be able to get the same results with animal-based protein that these guys are getting with plant-based protein. But for the endurance athletes in the documentary that were getting better results, it makes sense. But at the same time, most of those guys were eating like straight shit and then going to a clean diet. And some that were eating animal-based proteins and eating a decent diet and switching over, You know, I would like to see their macro breakdown, because if you're eating, like when Conor McGregor was talking about eating all those steaks and stuff, he was probably eating way too much protein for his fucking body to be an MMA athlete. And I never saw, I mean, even if he was eating carbs and fats and stuff, the protein was just outweighing it. If he were to lower his protein count with the meat and pick different types of meat instead of just steak all the time and offset that with carbs and fats and stuff, he probably would get just as good of a results as the kid that whipped his ass that was on a plant-based diet. So the bottom line is, as long as you eat according to your goals and eat smart and decent, no matter where your fucking protein's coming from, the macros come out all right, ratios are right, all that good shit, you'll get what you want. Don't just start, first of all, don't knock it till you try it. That goes with a lot of things in life. But I'm not going to knock the plant-based diet, because it does work better for some people according to their goals. Like these endurance athletes, it's probably great for them. I have had endurance athletes and stuff do animal-based protein diets, but their carbs are up there, their fats are up there, and their protein's lower. Just about the same macro breakdown, probably. When I have vegans, I have them make sure they use complete proteins. I use EAAs to complete the proteins that aren't complete, and I've done stuff like that and gotten just as good results with them as far as fat loss and getting in better shape. So, no matter where everything's coming from, eat according to your goals. Get some knowledge about nutrition instead of just going with what the trend says. Like, look at the breakdowns, look at how food works. I mean, be smart about it, I guess I'm trying to say. Oh, and the fucking dude that ran the Appalachian Trail, you know, it's funny, you ran that whole fucking trail and you still can't pronounce the goddamn name right. It's not Appalachian, it's Appalachian. Get it fucking right, or don't talk about it at all. That shit pisses me the fuck off, and me and everybody else from that area gets pissed off when you Yankee fucks wants to go say Appalachian and talk about it. Like, you know what, like, fuck you, Appalachian, that's how you fucking say it. Oh, and you bodybuilders out there that want to try a plant-based diet, this is a rule of thumb I usually tell people. If Mr. Olympia ain't doing it, probably ain't gonna fucking work as well for you. And don't pull, well, he's on drugs. It doesn't fucking matter. You know how many people probably take more shit than those bodybuilders take, and they look like garbage. So don't even pull the fucking drug card.